All right. Man, so friendly. I love this. Amazing. All right, y'all. Thank you for following the prompt, being super friendly. Any Team USA basketball fans in the house today? Because that was one of my favorite basketball games I've ever seen. So that was pretty awesome. That was pretty awesome. All right, I'm going to jump in today. I'm excited to preach this word. I was very moved by the scriptures that we were focusing on for this week. So we actually are going to sit in the scriptures a bit today. So if you bring a physical Bible, get ready. It's going to be amazing. And if you have a digital Bible, you're still blessed. It's cool. It's cool. Now, if you're looking for a title of our message today, I'm a title guy. It's this: Grace is the road back. Grace is the road back. I know some people are excited about grace. They're like, I need all the grace in the world. Yeah, so we're obviously going to talk today about the grace of Jesus to forgive and to restore. And on our road to covering this, we're actually going to take a look at the story of Peter, and we're specifically going to look at when Peter denied knowing Jesus, being associated with Jesus 3 times just prior to his crucifixion. And it's extremely powerful, so I hope that you're ready to listen up. I want to introduce us to Peter. I acknowledge that maybe some people are newer to the scriptures and you're not so familiar, so I'm just going to give you some headlines on Peter really quickly. Peter would be one of the hand-picked 12 disciples of Jesus Christ, and several of the Bible accounts will show us that he is one of the first that he chooses. And we can see that throughout the scriptures in the New Testament, when he's with Jesus in the Gospels, he is undoubtedly close to Jesus. Close in that Jesus allows him closer proximity than the other disciples. Close in that he clearly has a heart of adoration towards Jesus. We're going to unpack that in a little bit. Close in that he was even one of 3 of the disciples that Jesus brought with him onto the mountain when we see something called the Transfiguration happen. And just to summarize for you very quickly, that's when Jesus went on top of a mountain. I'm summarizing this very quickly. Please don't be like, that's too easy. And he basically reveals his glorified self. Like, when Jesus was on the earth, he was fully man. And when he goes on this mountain, he reveals himself in his deity form. And he brought 3 people with him. So we're led to believe that, yes, Jesus had the 12. But there were 3 that he actually brought even closer than that. And Peter would be one of those. Peter, when Jesus asked, who do they say I am? Who do you say I am? Peter actually is the one with the conviction and the revelation to lean in and say, you are the Messiah. You are the Son of the living God. This was before Jesus had really broken this down and unpacked that with the disciples. Peter had eyes, spiritual eyes, to see that this man he was with was not just a man. This was, in fact, the Messiah, the Son of God. He had a revelation as to who Jesus was. And to this, Jesus looked at Peter and he said, I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. And later on, we actually see that he says, or not later on, but separately, we see that he says, Peter, I will make you a fisher of men. This is because Peter was a fisherman. But instead of catching fish, after Jesus met him, he said, no, your days of catching fish are over. I'm going to make you a fisher of men. This ended up being the call on his life, as we see that Peter was actually one of two people post-resurrection that Jesus commissioned to reach massive people groups, Paul being the other one. The last thing I'll say about Peter on my headlines for you, you're all going to be like, I know Peter is now. Awesome. And some of you might be like, why is this guy talking like people don't know Peter? Like, I want to be very conscious. I've been in church a long time. Like, sometimes there are legitimately new believers who have never actually read the Bible. And I think that, like, one of the hardships of being in church for so long is you just assume everybody knows everything, and that's not true, especially in our society. So thank you for coming with me on this journey. Yeah, I'm trying to be like, come on, come in the boat, y'all. Let's do this right. Is that cool? Come on. The last thing I'll say about Peter is this. Peter was an excellent disciple of Jesus. Excellent. Sat at the feet of his teacher, opened his ears, asked questions, leaned in, applied what Jesus taught into their life. He was an excellent disciple. What is the point of all these headlines? Peter was about as close as it gets. There's a few others in the scriptures, but Peter was very close to Jesus. He loved Jesus. And that is why what we're about to read, what happens in the courtyard, might surprise you. Okay? So let's jump in. We're going to read Luke chapter 22. This is Peter denying knowing Jesus. Where are we in the scriptures? Let me tell you. Jesus has been arrested. This is near the end of Jesus' life, and we are witnessing what's happening immediately after Jesus is arrested and taken from where his disciples are. Then they seized him and led him away, bringing him into the high priest's house. And Peter was following at a distance. And when they had kindled a fire, I'm going to pause here because many of the manuscripts will say a fire of coals or a charcoal fire. We're going to get to why that's important. In the middle of the courtyard, and sat down together. Peter sat down among them. Then a servant girl, seeing him as he sat in the light and looking closely at him, said, "This man also was with him." She's talking about Jesus. But he denied it, saying, "Woman, I do not know him." And a little later, someone else saw him and said, "You also are one of them." But Peter said, "Man, I am not." And after an interval of about an hour, still another insisted, saying, "Certainly this man also was with him, for he too is a Galilean." But Peter said, "Man, I do not know what you are talking about." That is the third time that he denied this. And immediately, while he was still speaking, the rooster crowed. And the Lord turned and looked at Peter. Man, can we just pause there? Have you ever said something in the presence of, maybe if you're married, you've done this, or you have a good friend, but you just say something that you know the other person wouldn't have wanted you to say, and you say it, and then that person just I literally cannot. I've tried to sit in his sandals or whatever he was wearing, and I try to be like, what would that have felt like for Jesus after you deny him 3 times? Did he look at him was it like that, or was it like a slow that hurts? What was it like? I've tried to do it, and every way I try to perceive it, it cuts. It cuts pretty deep. Peter remembered. Okay, turned and looked at Peter. And Peter remembered the saying of the Lord, how he had said to him, "Before the rooster crows today, you will deny me 3 times." So Jesus predicted this, and Peter did it. And Peter went out and wept bitterly. All right, I'm gonna paint the situation for us here. Why would Peter, who I've painted a picture of being extremely close, a great disciple, a lover of Jesus, why would he deny Jesus 3 times? when pressured by questions? Why would he do this? Why would he do this when Jesus himself, hours before, told him, "You're going to deny me 3 times"? Why would Peter do this? Let's look at this contextually here. Jesus had just been arrested, apprehended, whatever you want to call it. And in the midst of this, we didn't cover this in the text, but when they came to take Jesus, Peter actually takes out a sword or a knife, depending on the script, on the translation, and he slices one of the guards' ears off. So guards rush in. Peter's immediate response is defend, slices this guard's ear off, which, by the way, the Lord then immediately heals. Cool thing about Jesus, not the point of the scripture, though. And things begin escalating. They take Jesus, their teacher, away. He begins to see that the climate is changing here. Tensions begin to rise. And so because of that, the cost of being affiliated with Jesus begins to rise. Here's how I'm going to summarize this. Peter broke his union with Jesus under pressure. When pressure came in, that's when he broke his union. He went into self-preservation mode. If I say I'm with him, my life and potentially the life of my family is in danger. Now, I want to be clear. We're just speaking observationally here. This isn't a statement of judgment on Peter. Like, we're literally just observing what happened. Why did this happen? When the threat level rose, we see Peter beginning to respond in ways that were not what the teacher taught him. When the guards come in and apprehend Jesus, he resorts to violence. Surely the Messiah didn't teach him that. When some observer says that man was with Jesus, he lies. He denies even knowing him. Surely the Messiah didn't teach him that. He goes into self-preservation mode when the tensions of life began to escalate. He was saving face, in other words. I think that if we are truly honest with ourselves, here in this room, I think if we're truly honest with ourselves, that if we look at our life and the times when we break with Jesus, maybe you've never denied him publicly, but maybe there's been conversations where you're like, I could chime in, or I could avoid that pressure, or you see something happening and you're like, I could do something here, or I could just not involve myself. I think if we're being truly honest with ourselves, church, when we break our connection with Jesus, it is often to save face or often to self-preserve. I think if we're truly honest, we can boil it down largely to that. Saving our reputation, saving our needs, saving our comfort, saving our desires. Because sticking with Jesus and his way takes us into places we cannot control. And sometimes those places can be dangerous. They can be dangerous to how your friends see you. They can be dangerous to what your family thinks about you. They can be dangerous places. It's hard to say what the price to pay in saying he was with Jesus would have been to Peter in that moment. Maybe he too would have been apprehended. Maybe he also would have been sentenced to death. Maybe his family would have been then associated and brought into danger. Whatever it was, the fact is this: Peter recognized that it was unsafe to be affiliated